name is LoeyLane, and I'm so excited to tell you guys about my new podcast, Internet Urban Legends, with my BFF Snitchery.
We deep dive into the darkest corners of the internet to uncover whether some of the most notorious web myths are hoax or whether they're con. Internet Urban Legends, available exclusively on Spotify.
Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Hi, hello, my name is Loey. Recently, I've noticed this trend on YouTube of showing like weird photos, or even photos that might seem kind of normal at first, and then sharing the disturbing backstories behind them. I'm so into these videos. I've been inspired by a few different accounts that I'll have linked down below, but today I decided to try my own hand at scouring the web for a couple of different interesting and creepy photographs that we can dive into the disturbing and scary backstories of. Specifically today, I have 6 to show you, which may not seem like a lot, but as we get into it, you'll understand that each of these have a pretty dark and detailed history to them. Before we get started with today's video, I wanted to quickly thank the sponsor, Scentbird. You guys have heard me talk about Scentbird before. Basically, it's your one-stop shop to your own personal perfume wardrobe. Scentbird partners with top designers to give you the opportunity to try out as many fragrances as your heart desires. Through Scentbird, you can try out perfumes from over 600 top brands, including but not limited to Dolce & Gabbana, Versace, Gucci, and so many more, including indie brands that you may not be familiar with but might be your new favorite scent. If you're in the market for a new perfume, I think that Scentbird is the perfect way to try out different scents. Through their service, you can try out 30-day samples of different perfumes, but also if you're like, I want to try a new scent but I don't even necessarily really know what I want, they have an amazing quiz that will point you in the direction of your new go-to smell. Their scents come in these cute reusable atomizers that you can load up your favorite perfumes in. I think one of my go-to Scentbird like finds, something that I've discovered through them that I've really fallen in love with, has been Rag & Bone's Amber perfume. It's so pretty. Also an unexpected find, but Versace's Bright Crystal Absolute is beautiful. The freshest, cleanest, springy scent. These samples will last you 30 days, and if you guys want to give Scentbird a try today, you can do so at 55% off when you use my code in my link down below. That code is LOEL to get 55% off of your first month at Scentbird, making your very first perfume only $7. Thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring today's video. And now let's talk about some creepy photographs. Number 6 is the disturbing human dolls of Annelise Michael. Now, I'm not showing you one of the real dolls because they are human bodies. A lot of them don't look human anymore. They've been really heavily like paper mache'd over. Features as they have decayed were replaced. These were essentially highly mummified dolls that this one man kept within his home, but they looked a little something like what I'm showing you on screen right now. Now, Annelise Michael, you may have heard of him before. He was a Russian professor, a college professor at that, as well as a journalist, and kind of like a self-proclaimed graveyard enthusiast. Anatoly would always be seen at his local graveyards, just going through the area. He actually got a job in that field, surveying graveyards, taking down notes, and reporting his findings. However, his interest in graveyards was anything but scientific. Anatoly would eventually be caught stealing bodies from the graveyards that he would then take home, dress in various outfits, and pose as if they were his own doll collection. Alarmingly enough, when police did raid Anatoly's home, they noticed all of these life-size dolls everywhere. And while they thought that those dolls were creepy and Anatoly was a little weird, they were like, this place just has the most rancid smell. They couldn't even think about it. And that's when they realized. Anatoly would be arrested in 2011 and charged with various crimes relating to grave robbing, dismembering human corpses, etc. He had been suspected at this time of vandalizing countless graves, but no one knew what to expect when police walked into his home and found 26 life-size dolls, just like the ones I'm showing you today, except instead of dolls, they were the mummified remains of human corpses. This is a story that scares me so much. And I was actually talking to a friend about it earlier, because what's so crazy with this is I called Anatoly a killer. But the thing was, he wasn't a killer. I don't think he actually ever killed anyone. He just stole people's bodies out of their graves and, in his own words, gave them a second life, despite the fact that they were long gone. The rest of the photos that I have to show you are actual photos of what I'm going to be talking about. I just didn't want to show someone's remains on camera, as much as they may be covered up with plaster or new clothes or something. At one point, something within that doll was a real person, and I didn't want to be disrespectful. But it's still terrifying to think about. Now, next up we have a photo that people often regard as fake, as something that is just made to be a jump scare on the internet. But this is a very real image of one young girl named Annelise Michael. Annelise was just a teenager in the 1960s when she began to experience some really intense effects of an unknown illness. Annelise would come home complaining that she was blacking out at school. She didn't know what was going on and was just always in a daze. Shortly after, this was followed by seizures, convulsions, and her symptoms just got more and more intense. By only age 16, Annelise had been diagnosed with psychosis. It's believed that the psychosis was caused by frontal lobe epilepsy. So basically a seizure and these other symptoms that she was having had triggered an episode of psychosis in her. And then by age 20, Annelise started to have a symptom that nobody could quite understand. She began to just feel really nauseated and had a very strong aversion to anything religious. Say a cross or something of a different religion. Anytime it was around her, Annelise would recoil, would feel sick, would scream, and just wanted to be nowhere near it. She also had treatment-resistant depression. She was rapidly losing weight and was just not well, and her parents were desperate, so they called upon a Catholic priest. After being denied by 2 former priests, they found one who would do the exorcisms. And in total, on Annelise, he performed 67 exorcisms. During the course of these, Annelise would refuse food or water, and eventually she died of malnutrition after one exorcism in particular. The parents and the priest would later be charged with her death, and her story went on to inspire films like The Exorcism of Emily Rose, as well as Requiem. The next photo is one that just fascinates me. This is something I think I could make an entire video on if you guys were interested in it. And as you can see, it's a photo of what looks like a police officer with a man with a paper bag over his head. But this is such a fascinating photo from such a fascinating time in history, because this was part of the Stanford prison experiments. This experiment was held by a college professor named Philip Zimbardo, and Philip set out on a fascinating study of exactly what would happen if you gave really intelligent, like educated people access to power and a lack of power. So what he did was he took a group of volunteers and he divided them into 2 separate teams, I guess you would say. One group, one team, were prison guards, and they were going to be in charge of the experiment that would follow. They would be in charge of punishments, keeping the inmates, who were the second group, in order, and the inmates, as a result, would just see the effects of this. And there really was like no goal. This wasn't like a game to be won. It really was just in the name of science and seeing what would happen if you put these people into a simulated prison experience. Although the professor himself said that he wanted to see how quickly good people, as he described them, could be turned evil with a power imbalance. To quote the professor exactly here, if you're wondering what eventually happened, how we went about testing those questions and what we found may astound you. Our planned 2-week investigation into the psychology of prison life had to be ended after only 6 days because of what the situation was doing to the college students who participated. In only a few days, our guards became sadistic and our prisoners became depressed and showed signs of extreme stress. Please read the story of what happened and what it tells us about the nature of human nature. That's right. Being placed into a simulated prison environment was so distressing for everyone involved that the experiment had to be ended after 6 days. I say it was all in the name of science, but many people regarded this as quite inhumane and cruel. But you really see how inhumane and cruel it is when you notice the kinds of punishments that these guards were dealing out. They became so power hungry that they traumatized the prisoners. And even the good guards, the ones who didn't want to act crazy because they knew this was an experiment, felt totally helpless. They felt like they couldn't do anything. So this photo is a sobering reminder of what a group of college students went through for 6 days that scarred them for life. The next photo, this is so sad, but also so fascinating, is one of John Lennon and the man who would kill him just hours later. On December 8th of 1980, John Lennon was leaving his New York apartment when he ran into some fans. One of those fans was named Mark David Chapman, who you can see here in this photo. Chapman asked Lennon to sign his copy of A Double Fantasy and expressed his admiration for the artist. Later, John would leave after signing autographs for these fans, and he would go on to a recording session. Later that night, when he returned home with his wife Yoko Ono to his apartment, somebody was waiting there for him. That somebody was Mark Chapman. This time he wasn't looking for an autograph, and he had a weapon. Chapman killed John Lennon with 5 bullets, 4 of which hit his back, and he was pronounced dead that very same night. Chapman then went to his car to wait to be arrested, and when police found him, he was reading The Catcher in the Rye. When asked why he did it, his answer is really just bizarre. He said that he just wanted the notoriety of it all. He had a list of different celebrities that he would have killed if Lennon hadn't worked out or if he hadn't been caught immediately. But later on in interviews, Chapman would recall this moment meeting John Lennon, saying he was very kind to me, very cordial and decent man. So it's just so weird to see this photo of a man and his killer in which they were having a pleasant exchange. Next up is kind of like a twofer. We have 2 different photographs, so I guess technically this is 7 photos that have disturbing backstories, but these 2 kind of go hand in hand. Now, in the first photo that you see here, this was taken just hours after an absolute tragedy struck this home. On this day in 1974, a mass murder would be committed within the home by Ronald DeFeo Jr., who killed his entire family in one night. This home on Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York, saw more tragedy than anyone could ever expect. Using a gun, DeFeo went room to room, killing every single one of his siblings, as well as his parents. And this photo shows the house just hours after those shootings took place. You can see that the house seems quiet even just by the photo. There are tons of cars outside, but no caution tape up yet, no one in handcuffs, just a home that had just experienced such an absolute tragedy. So this happens in the home, and the Amityville horror is really that story, and everything that followed is really up for debate. The Amityville Haunting, I guess, is something that's widely discussed online. However, it is one of Ed and Lorraine Warren's most famous cases that they ever worked on. In 1976, the house was purchased by a new owner. This was George Lutz, and George claims that the home was just incredibly haunted. You could not move an inch in this home without something paranormal happening to you. So the Warrens came, they set up their cameras, and they did a full investigation. There were a lot of interesting findings from this, and like I said, there's a lot of kind of controversy around this haunting in general. But one thing that I can show you with absolute certainty is this photo that was captured on that night of that investigation in 1976 by a camera set up by the Warrens. This was an automatic camera that was set up to take photos every so often. And in this one, you can see what looks like a ghostly young boy staring back at the camera. Many believe this to be the spirit of the young boy John DeFeo, one of the killer's siblings who died within the home on that night in 1974. And the last photo I have here to show you guys is just as dark as everything else. This time, it's a killer's plea to be caught by police. On December 10th of 1945, William Herons would formally be dubbed the Lipstick Killer after it was discovered that he had left a note for law enforcement on his most recent victim's walls. After stabbing his victim, a young woman named Frances Brown, I couldn't find too much information about her online because this was from the 40s and it doesn't seem to be well documented. William left a harrowing note that detectives would discover on the walls just a few hours later. This note, written in the lipstick, supposedly from the victim herself, read as follows: "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." William had killed one woman prior to this named Josephine Ross, and after he would kill once again, this time a 6-year-old girl. Her name was Suzanne Degnan, and this killing took place in Edgewater, Chicago. It's so scary because at that point, police didn't have enough to pin these murders on anybody. Fortunately, after Suzanne's killing, he was caught and put away, and he, of course, was a serial killer. He killed 3 people. But to think about that note and him saying to police, "I will do this again, like, you have to catch me," is just so scary. And of course, police were doing what they could at this time, but like, to think that if they had caught him, at least one of the killings could have been prevented is just so scary. Now, I found these on a list of like different scary photos from the internet with their disturbing backstories, and I looked into each of them a little bit more so I could give you guys a more clear, concise story, but I'll have that link down below if you guys want to see more disturbing photos with creepy backstories. But if you want a part 2 to this, or just to hear me talk about like creepy things throughout history that have been documented in photographs, let me know because I would be so happy to do another one of these. For now, I'd like to say a massive thank you to my subscriber Jessie for being a member of this channel. If you guys want to join my channel memberships, I think they finally rolled it out onto YouTube Mobile, so you guys can now hit that little join button somewhere around the screen no matter where you are watching this video. You can get one extra members exclusive video every single month. This month's will be just me talking a little bit about my birthday, as well as other members only perks. We would love to have you. For now, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love you very, very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!